Perfect.
And already getting into round 4, we've got Nasus Thresh versus Deep. This matchup is actually pretty even, right? You've got the natural aggressiveness of Nasus Thresh, and then Deep just trying to do what it always does. Just play that AoE, play that lifesteal in the Deadbloom Wanderer, try to just survive to get to your power turn. And Makantor right now is developing a very powerful board, but no attack token here. Morpai's just trying to survive with a Maokai in play. Bone Skewer is going to be really strong, too, to guarantee this lifesteal will connect with something significant.
Makantor, it looks like doing good old Thresh Nasus things. Has a full board by turn 4. And just putting maximum pressure here on Morprice, trying to get the game over as quickly as possible.
The Merciless Hunter coming down in order to drag the Deadbloom Wanderer to the bottom of the stack means that a lot of pressure, a lot of damage being threatened here. Bone Skewer, however, the new key card added to Deep is going to guarantee once again that this lifesteal will go through and stop this 4-3. You get a nice ghost block here on the 2-1. Getting to have your cake and eat it too. Fantastic card. And by putting Deadbloom Wanderer back on the top of the deck, you get to toss 3 more cards and work towards that Deep, getting a quick cover. Morpice is still not very close to Deep this early in the game, unfortunately. 28 cards still left.
Yeah, people are starting to really recognize and incorporate the power of Bone Skewer into decks, and like here in this position, it's way better than single combat, right? You're keeping your unit alive, you're denying a blocker by recalling, so effectively you're stopping 2 ways of killing the Deadbloom Wanderer, and then you're also putting it on the top of your deck, which it's a card you want to draw in this position, and you get to toss again for Maokai. It's just doing so many things well, and for a 2 mana cost, it's a really efficient card there.
Glimpse Beyond does stop the lifesteal. You're recycling that Deadbloom Wanderer like we talked about, but
yeah, you are at 4 HP.
Yeah, so sidestepping that lifesteal is going to be huge. Double Lure of the Depth's going to come through to try to get some sort of discount for an early game play. But the early curve from Makantor was just gorgeous. And a Vile Feast on top of everything to clear the Maokai. Unfortunately, I think Morpice just... the writing is on the wall. You're, again, guaranteed to draw Deadbloom Wanderer. This is the part of the game where you're like, I need a Ruination. There's not even mana for it. It's rough, to say the least. To say the very least.
Certainly here. I think when you bring Deep into a lineup, you kind of have to... make sure that you're targeting a certain deck, so make sure your other decks do really well into that deck too, and or like at least a group of decks. And I doubt Thresh Nasus is that deck that Morpheus is targeting here. It's probably something more like TLC and something, or like Dragons, Aesol, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, if he drops this game, I'm not sure what the rest of the lineups are going to be here, but there's still definitely a good chance that this was just a bad matchup, and you kind of plan on dropping this one in 2-0 in the next one.
Yeah, don't let it get to you when your opponent like just beats you up. When you're playing Deep, you're kind of used to it, right? Like this is how every Deep deck loses. Once you get your win condition, get your late game, very rarely can you lose from that position. It's all about trying to survive that early game.
So waiting for the round 2 here, we may be able to just jump right back in, depending on how much.
Nasus Thresh picking up a pretty easy win.
Yeah.
And now going into game 2, we've got Deep once again trying to pick up a win versus Makantor on Ezreal Draven. Now, how do you all feel about this particular matchup? It's not one I've seen very often.
Yeah, what do you think?
I know, that's a hard question.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of this matchup either, to be honest.
My gut would say that Ezreal Draven has a maybe is a little favored. Like, it depends if Deep is able to place a large amount of threats on the board, those large monsters, once they've hit Deep. That would be hard for Ezdraven to deal with. But if they're not able to flood or get to Deep very quickly, the cost-effective removal tools from Draven Ezreal, plus just stacking a Tri-Beam from the early game, that might be too much for Deep to deal with.
We already see 2 double Scorched Earth in Makantor's hand here, which even if Morpus does get to that turbo deep, that's definitely going to buy Makantor some time and can certainly be very relevant here.
Mm-hmm. This deck's really not going to come down to like early aggressiveness from Makantor. It's about surviving that mid-game deep power spike. Morpus sitting on triple Dead Bloom Wanderer is going to have a lot of potential lifesteal to survive any sort of aggressive lines that Ezreal Draven can sometimes come out with. You know, if they have Draven on curve, a couple Sump Dredgers, they are more likely to take more tempo-oriented lines, and there is that duality between the strategy you're hoping for the matchup and what the deck is giving you. But just a classic Thermo Beam, going to clear off the Deadbloom Wanderer, just trying to keep some pressure going, and a nice open attack, getting this pressure, getting this early work done to try to set up for the burn out with Ezreal. Her Captain Farron is really what Makantor is hoping for. And with the tosses now coming through off of Deadbloom Wanderer, you're going to be hitting this deep power spike, hopefully a little bit faster than what we saw in that previous match.
Yep, and we only have one Ezreal stack currently at the moment, so we're going to want to beef that up as the game gets longer, but these double Scorched Earths in hand right now are looking a bit like bricks to me.
You're going to sit on them for such a long time waiting for a worthy target to hit the board, right? And you want to damage and clear a Nautilus, or maybe you can use it to clear an Abyssal Eye, something that's threatening a lot of big damage on your Nexus. But Ezreal Draven, I'm wondering if maybe you just try to set them up to clear something earlier, just to get a Tri-Beam and Probulator stack if need be, or another target to level up Ezreal, if that burn is the lineup that Makantor is envisioning right now that's going to seal the deal in this game.
It's one of the strengths of this deck for sure, is that it's able to usually present, you know, a formidable mid-game between House Spiders and Ballistic Bots and some Dredgers and Draven, and push some chip damage, and then you want to finish out with a Farron, a big blowout Tri-Beam or something like that. But in this situation, where we're heavy on the spells, very light on the units, it does showcase the potential for maybe the weaker side of this deck. Not to say that it can't be... You can't come back from it, but it just is a bit of a weird hand and perspective to play from at this point.
Certainly. I mean, he's got a lot of good draws here. We're getting a good amount of Ezreal procs. Once we found the Ezreal,
that's a good hit for a 2-drop.
That is pretty good. Deep does have limited healing options. They have the Withering Wails and the Vile Feast, which Morpus happens to have 2 Withering Wails, so it's probably good for a bit here, but the burn definitely does add up.
Yeah, it's very expensive options for the healing, right? Like if you're gonna Withering Wail, you aren't doing much else. You're just focusing on surviving rather than playing a Jaw Hunter or something that's actually going to further the acceleration towards that deep. Just another note for those who might have missed it in the chat, we did see an Atrocity be tossed by Morpus, so the lack of that potential finishing burst of damage means that Morpus is going to need to play a more honest win condition. 20 cards still left in the deck. He is almost there.
Yes, yep. That's huge. Right now, Makantor's got to be thinking that one Jettison gets the opponent deep here, so always a consideration. Of course, we see that Morpus doesn't have that Jettison, but definitely be a factor here when you're considering going for certain removal options. Like this Flock might be a little risky. If Morpus does have the Jettison here, the unit would live, but he doesn't, so it doesn't.
And I think that taking the risk on that Ravenous Flock just kind of shows how desperate Makantor is feeling. Again, Sqweeby had already pointed out that the hand was very high on spells. and just trying to use those to maximum effectiveness and just make this ballistic bot and arachnoid horror go the distance. Despite everything, this is still a lot of damage being threatened on the board.
Oh, certainly. Very few units, but putting the most pressure on with those units.
Sump Dredger is a great draw here, though, to be sure. It'll put another beefy body on the board and cycle the hand a bit more. I wonder if we just automatically go for a stun here with Sentry and say, no, your Y'all isn't going to connect today, and then maybe open with a Tri-Beam that has been buffed up to 3. It's looking like that may be the line here.
When you're in a matchup where you know you're the aggressor as Ezreal Draven, you actually don't mind taking these smaller tri-beams, like the 2, 3, and 4 pools of units are really strong to draw from. And I suppose the only caveat is just pray no solitary monk if it does get to that. And but still, it's paying off here, and there just hasn't been the mana cost, right? There hasn't been the mana there for Morpice to really respond effectively to this pressure. We've got double Withering Wail, and even though it's a powerful wipe, it is still it's too expensive to commit your entire turn to when you haven't gotten this early deep homework yet. Abyssal Eye, we're getting a hover here. 2 cards away from deep, so with the draw here, unlucky. Golden Narwhal
yeah,
gonna
the
stop
elusive
this.
is a huge hit here for the Draven Ezreal, and not something you'd expect to see, a 2-cost elusive, really, so that makes it difficult for Morpice here. They probably weren't going to go deep anyway if we have the no jettison read from last turn, but they would be going deep into the next turn with the next draw, and now that means this card is just going to remain a 3-1, most likely for a turn longer. Which is exactly what you want to see here from Draven Ezreal, and maybe it's slam the Farron go face turn?
If you're attacking on evens, that's 95% of the time the correct line.
It gets punished by Anasis, wrong deck.
I know, when you see that green Shadow Isle, like, it gets
punished by a Nautilus a good bit, but we may have a read of no not if it was not dropped last turn.
And the good thing too is that even if the opponent has a knot, we have a read that they don't have jettison, right? So he can't go deep, so the knot is just an 0-13, which, like, although it'll be able to block the Captain Farron, he could still go for the full swing here, which is equivalent, basically the same thing as just open attacking, because the knot blocks the
and you
Captain
put the
Farron,
damage
and
on
everything
it
else swings.
before his swing, you know, so then you can Scorched Earth open next turn.
Yes, definitely. Yep. And
So
if he
the
doesn't have the knot,
Dredger
like in this situation, it's very
was
strong.
top decked by Morpice, so you can still play this out and go deep, but all that's doing is giving you a 6 attack unit in play, and it's about trying to go wide here. Morpice may be thinking, thinking about maybe crunching the numbers on double Withering Wail to stabilize this, but just going to go for the Devourer instead.
Makes a lot of sense here. Very unfortunate. Morp would have really liked to be deep right now, which if he didn't roll that elusive, he would be. And that would be stopping a lot of damage here with these 2 units. But
Definitely goes for a half measure, right? Rather than just like blocking one thing, going for double Withering Wail to just clear out those 2 HP units. Just wants to stop a little bit more damage from this overwhelming Captain Farron. Once this attack connects, you're going to be in a pretty bad spot when it comes to the guillotines coming down, right? The decimates and any other burn that might be in store from Makantor's list. And I think that as time has gone on, the distribution of how many get excited during the list and things of that nature has really shifted. But again, the deep deck, the lifesteal is all about just sustaining to the win condition. Once you hit that, you need to basically commit all of your turns to playing big sea monsters. You can't spare the mana even with the discount to just heal.
absolutely. We do see Morpus is now deep. A little bit of a sigh of relief, I'm sure, from him, but still haven't found that Nautilus, which is what we really are looking for at this point. Makantor, very relevantly, is at 14 health, which happens to be one above 13. So
Mhm.
Nautilus plus Atrocity combo.
He's not going to
Still a
keep
little
that.
short.
Oh, actually, yeah, he definitely could keep that this turn, huh? If we just drop a Scorched Earth. And then probably the game plan would be to drop a Ballistic Bot this turn and look for putting 2 more damage onto Morpice's Nexus, and then double decimating once they're at 8 HP. That would be a line that I was looking at potentially.
But the double Scorched Earth is put down. Bone Skewer going to respond here. You still get to strike with the deep Devourer, and it's going to go back onto the top of the deck. And this is going to allow you to respond and devour the next unit that Makantor develops. But from this position, you still have the decimates to just close out from here.
Yep. And we see a salvage getting tossed there. A little sad for Morpus here. I'm sure he would have liked to be drawing into that within these next couple turns. Very, very big though that Makantor still does not have Ezreal. It's Ezreal and Mystic Shot. There's a couple draws here, I should say, that can.
They're on
get him
vacation
there
in the
if he
bottom of
doesn't
the
have
deck,
Withering
it
Well.
looks like.
Yeah, they're AFK.
They said, Farron, Draven, Tri-Beams, you guys got this one. We can hang out, go to the beach, you'll bring it home.
Yep. It's the classic champions hiding at the bottom of the deck, despite the early pressure, right? Because of a very spell heavy hand, it was still really a valiant effort to deal this much damage and present this much pressure, just with some early tri-beams and just trying to smork through with the ballistic bot. And now Morpice might actually be able to sustain through this. Maybe the Withering Wail is just the right amount of healing that they need after all.
It's important to note as well, there's 12 cards left in Morpice's deck. That means, every draw you're getting a high likelihood of drawing one of your champions and closing out the game. If it's Maokai, it puts the Dravenez player on a big clock with that almost obliterated deck. A Watcher Light, you might say. But I do like this Sump Dredger first play into potentially a Draven to try to bait out the Devour card onto something that's a little less valuable, but it doesn't look like that is going to happen.
And there is the Maokai coming off of the top, 22 out of 25, not leveled up just yet, but this could be the way to go. If Morpice can survive for a few more rounds, you can get that pressure down on Makantor. When this deck gets desperate, they love to rummage, right? They're looking for that card draw, trying to get that Hail Mary lethal or that next Captain Farron to get a few more decimates to close out. But yeah, Maokai's just going to slam down right now. We have the discount still on the Devourer. Ready to go. Culling Strike, finding a perfect target in the Maokai.
Yeah, really sad to see that for your Morpus. A huge thing there too would have been Makantor losing all of his Ezreals, which is something he's going to need here to be able to get that little extra reach. Either Ezreal or Captain Farron at this point to get through that Withering Wail.
And I saw the aggressive line, of summoning the Maokai, then playing the Devourer, getting a sapling, trying to pull the unit to the side, and swing for a lethal on this turn. So Morpus really just trying to close out, taking the risk of the Maokai there. And, maybe they're just saying, okay, if this eats a removal spell, this kind of paves the way for the Devourer to get a better target. You can really see the pressure that Makantor is under. Because of Bone Skewer, he knows that the Devourer is in hand and doesn't want to give it a good sacrifice. Just saying, please just eat this Sump Dredger, let me play something else safely.
I would sacrifice Draven here in terms of playing it first, I would say. Bot is definitely something that you're valuing higher at this point when you really want to be getting that chip damage. So I think it is maybe about time to play Draven, say, okay, you get to Devour Draven, and then play Bot. Or maybe into a Thermo on the 7-4. You do have some options, but this pass is also tempting, isn't it?
I wonder if Morpus might just be thinking a few levels beyond, not just a better target than Sump Dredger for the Devourer, but if it's like specifically waiting for an Ezreal or something like that. And very hesitant here to try to play this out and get that swing. The atrocity in hand, though. One was tossed. There's still another ready to go. And I would definitely suspect, after taking a risk of Maokai, I wonder if Morpus is going to continue along this riskier line to just develop this aggressive Devour of the Depths, try to get this tempo and close out from 14. The later you go, the longer you let Ezreal Draven get these draws, the higher the chances that they're going to put together that lethal burn combo. And Makantor still has plenty of mana to throw down a Decimate, and then suddenly you're thinking to yourself, oh, what if I just get burned out on the stack if I try to go for this atrocity line?
Yeah, exactly for that reason you said. I think I would have rather taken a pass here. I know you're burning 10 mana, but knowing they have the Devour in hand, you're letting them hit for a good chunk of damage here, right? They'll be devouring Draven or Sumpdredger. I guess you can full block, but one of the blocks is going to let the 7 attack minion survive. So it's going to be swinging the board now into the favor of Morpice with an atrocity potential in hand. So I think maybe just passing, looking for that Ezreal top deck, looking for a Farron top deck that can't be stopped might have been a better play here. And we do see that Devour coming down.
Yeah, so I think that Morpice, after doing some quick calculations, does see the line. Earlier in this game, the double Scorched Earth was already played, and that just gives you even more confidence that your atrocity is going to connect. And now Makantor is the one who is going to be feeling the pressure here. And I think, honestly, from this position, maybe you are just going to play a Decimate out and hope for the rest of that burn to come through for you.
Maybe it's a Thermo, though, potentially, right? Thermo onto the 7/7, block with Draven into double axe on him, so it kills the 7/4. That looks like a decent line as well. They're only left with a 2/1 and they push 2 damage, and then it really is a true top deck war.
And when you're thinking really about the top deck war, Duckling, who is favored in the top deck war?
So right now we see that Morpus has 11 cards left in his deck, and we have 2 Maokais and 3 Nautilus, all that are pretty good. The Maokai is good if the opponent doesn't find an Ezreal, and the Nautilus is just good all around. Also, I'd say Nautilus or Deep is just generally favored here because their units are going to naturally be larger, right? We still have a couple of Tri-Beams in Makantor's deck that are basically dead at this point, as they'll just be 1 damage, summon a 1 unit cost unit. Ballistic Bot's a pretty good find here, though. Yep. That's going to give him 2 damage with these Decimates. He doesn't know the opponent has Withering Well. Well, he does now, but yeah, it's definitely big.
Yeah, this is like I said, I kind of love and hate being in these situations simultaneously as a player. It just is as close as we get to a photo finish, I would say, in Runeterra. It's blow for blow. Who are the RNG gods favoring today? And it's an edge of your seat sort of feeling, both as a player and a viewer, I would say. So this is fun to watch. We'll see how it goes. Rummage is a great pickup here.
Makantor gets the rummage and Morpus gets the salvage. Both players coming back from the top deck war brink and still finding the fuel, finding these threats and setting up the pressure. The ballistic bots have to block. This is way too much damage to take.
There's that 1 damage Tri-Beam you wanted, Duckling.
You could kill the 2/1, and what's the best 1 drop? Blade Squire?
It works out because we got the rummage, so we got a nice little discard target here now.
Prowling Cutthroat, get that 1 chip damage through. I don't see a reason to not open swing here on the side of Morpice. Yeah, there's potential with 10 man. The priority isn't there. Yeah. So yeah, this is correct. This looks right. You're trading up and you're getting a good chump blocker when you want to get a chump blocker.
And look at that. The second toss doesn't go through, and that's because the final 4 cards in the deck are all champions on Morpice's side. So the next draw is going to seal the deal on this game, whether it be a Nautilus or a Maokai.
It looks like here I think Makantor needs to top deck Ezreal or bust probably, right? There might be a chance if he draws Ezreal that the opponent won't have a chance to play the Atrocity, because now that it's 7 mana with the Nautilus. I think, is there some consideration to save the Decimate for a top deck Ezreal for like 1 extra damage?
That's a good question, actually.
I don't know if you have the right amount of actions to make that happen.
Yep. So I'd like
especially,
go for it.
Yeah, because you have that information that the next top deck is going to be Nautilus again or Maokai. And see here, Makantor is just going to draw the cards right now in case the rest of the deck does get obliterated. Get those card draws from the rummage. And there is the Ezreal. There is still a line.
And the Atrocity nerf here is cannot be overstated how massive it is. If there was no nerf, that Morpice would be winning this turn, unstoppably winning this turn. And because of that nerf, and you cannot play 14 mana, even with fully banked mana, it's over.
So I think that you have to Atrocity the Ezreal here.
Yep.
That's true.
Wait one more turn on that Nautilus, but it's still very much a game here. I think. I guess attack's probably right here. Because you're probably looking to discard the.
Yeah.
If he kills your Ezreal, you're probably looking to discard the Ignition.
Yeah, so here it is, Atrocity being floated, just waiting to be locked in. Morpice is calculating. Is there a better line of play? Is this 5/6 the correct target? How many Scorched Earths is my opponent running? Maybe even consulting the open deck lists right now. Seeing, is there a third Scorched Earth or a Noxian Guillotine that will punish this? Can I use the 5/5 instead? And says that the 5/5 is correct. Gonna keep that 5/6 up. And Atrocity lines up against the Ezreal. And now with this Atrocity out of the equation, Morpice needs to get the Nautilus down, get the shuffled in sea monsters brought onto the board, and try to hit the Nexus just with big bodies. No longer do we have this sidestep burst.
This is actually interesting too. I didn't quite consider that. I guess you do Ignition here because it's one less turn, right? Because you know you're getting 2 per turn here, or you're hoping to be getting 2 per turn here. You know the opponent can't have any more Vile Feasts. They're just on champions now. So I think I like this play.
The next rummage.
Another rummage.
And no Maokai to blow up the deck, so the rummage is going to have even more options to draw here.
It could hit a champion, yeah, because if it was Maokai, it wouldn't be a champion, but now we do have the potential to pick up another Ezreal.
And then you've got Nautilus's Riptide now, because the second Nautilus is being drawn here, so you can shuffle that champion back in. Here's the next cycle to throw the rummage. Wants to keep the Ignitions to get this damage. Are you praying for a Mystic Shot or get excited there?
You got Nautilus here, which is kind of crazy.
The Riptide is huge. The Ezreal draw is huge. Having both bots on the board is huge. Doesn't block. Says, I'm going to use these Ignitions. If you somehow remove Ezreal, I'm still presenting lethal next turn. This looks... Wow, it's so down to the wire, but I think Ezreal Draven's going to bring it home, given that there's only champs in the deck.
Throws the Ezreal back into the deck and says you aren't getting any bonus damage, and so there's now a chance, right, a slightly higher chance of just drawing another Nautilus and not even getting that Maokai. If you throw the Ezreal back and then blow up the deck while he's in there, then you don't have to worry about Ezreal as a threat. But now it's just the double Ignition. These are being generated right now at the start of the round. So if you do not swing on your opponent and get that lethal, it's going to be too little too late. And that is going to be GG.
Wow.
What a game, though.
What a game.
Really down to the wire.
The pressure of those Ezreals in the late stage of the game like that was just huge. The timing. Duckling was talking about how the Ezreal was just chilling at the bottom of the deck. Sqweeby was like, they're on vacation, they're at the beach, and finally shows up. He looked down, saw all the missed calls and missed text messages on his phone. It was like, oh wait, I
Time to show
gotta
up.
show up and save the game.